Morning year two, welcome to your first maths lesson of term 4. I hope you've all had a lovely half-term break and you managed to get some rest and spend some lovely time with your families as well. And yeah, I can't wait to see you all as soon as we can. Okay, as always then, can you please start off by writing your date and skill into your book? So the date is Monday the 22nd of February 2021 and your skill is identify different types of measurement. So pause the video and write that in now, please. Okay, let's recap then. So your starter for this lesson is how many lines of symmetry do these shapes have? And I'd like you to have a go at drawing them into your book, please. So we've got a square, a rectangle and a circle. You can draw those into your book and then draw your lines of symmetry as well. Pause the video off you go. Okay, so hopefully in your square you had one down this way, one across, and then the diagonal, so you had 4 lines of symmetry on your square. On your rectangle you would have had one across and one down, so that's 2 lines of symmetry, and your circle could have 365 lines of symmetry, couldn't it? So amazing if you found all of them, but anything that folded in half to make it exactly the same on both sides would have been a line of symmetry, so well done. Okay, so we're going to have a bit of a real life question here. So Marissa has gone to IKEA to buy some new furniture. She wants to know if she can lift it into her car and of course if it'll fit. What does she need to do to be sure and what might she use? Okay, so this might give you a little bit of an inkling of what we're going to be looking at in maths this term. But just pause the video and have a chat about what Marissa will need to do before she can buy any furniture in order to be able to be sure that she can get it into her car from the shop to get it home. Okay, pause the video, off you go. Okay, so of course you will have to measure her car boot to make sure that she can fit it in, and she'll need to know how heavy the objects are going to be so that she knows whether or not she can lift them or if she's going to need some help. So well done if you said that, and of course it's in our skill as well that this term we are going to be looking at measurements. So to start the term, we're learning about measure. So into your books then, I'd like you to have a little think of everything that you can remember or have learnt about measure. So you can pause the video, you can have a chat, or you can just write stuff down. It's up to you, but everything that you can remember about measure. Okay, well done. So we know then that we can split measurements into 4 types. Does anyone know what that might be? Pause the video and see if you can come up with 4 different types of measurement. Okay, so the 4 that we're going to be looking at this term are temperature, weight, capacity, and length. So these are the 4 types of measurement that we are going to be looking at over the next 2 weeks or so. So your first challenge then, how tall are you? What could we use to measure how tall you are? So I'd like you to have a go in a minute to see how many different ways you can come up with to measure how tall you are. So first we need to have a think, are we using capacity, weight, length or temperature to measure how tall we are? What do you think? Hopefully you said length, because that is what we're going to be using. So I'd like you to see how many different ways you can come up with to measure how tall you are. So of course you don't just have to use a ruler and the sort of things we might normally use. You might want to use your hands. You might, if you're at home, want to use maybe a chair. How many chairs tall are you? How many teddy bears tall are you? So have a play with it. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you come up with. Pause the video and when you're done you can come back. Okay, well done. Right, now we've had a look at the more playful side of things, let's have a little bit of a look at the more formal measurements that we need to learn about. So for temperature, temperature of course measures how hot or cold something is. So we can use a thermometer. So I've got my thermometer here. This is what my one looks like. It's in a little plastic case. And we can use thermometers to measure temperature. For example, when we're measuring the weather. Of course, I wouldn't use this kind of thermometer for the weather. I'd use this to measure my temperature, my body temperature. So you might have one like that at home as well. And we can measure the temperature in degrees Celsius, which is this funny little, it looks like a 0, but really high up. degrees C, or degrees Fahrenheit, which again, it's got a funny little 0 thing, and then an F. Okay, weight then. Weight measures how heavy or light something is. So you probably knew that already, didn't you? And weight can be, it's weighed in grams and kilograms. So the unit of measure for grams is just a little g, and kilograms is a capital K, a capital K, and a small g. So we can use weighing scales to measure how heavy something is, for example, when we're weighing ingredients for baking. So again, these are the scales that I use at home. So they've got a little screen here. I don't know if you can see that. And then it tells you, once you've put the item or the object or the ingredient on top of the scale, it tells you on the screen. Sometimes it doesn't seem to want to work today. Oh, it's coming up with an error message. Probably because there's nothing on there, of how heavy is the thing that you're weighing. So it could be in grams, it could be in kilograms, and so that will tell you. So I wonder if you've got scales at home. And of course, we need to know that there are 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. Okay, just like there are, we've got our ones and our tens, haven't we? We've got 10 ones in 1 10, like we learned in place value right back in September. In 1 kilogram, there is 1,000 grams. Okay, capacity then. This might be one that you've not touched on before. So capacity measures how much liquid there is in a container. So it might be a water bottle, it might be the bath, lots of different things. Again, you might use it when you're cooking as well. So we can measure capacity using a measuring jug. So again, it's like welcome to my kitchen, isn't it? This is my measuring jug that I use when I'm baking or measuring things out for cooking, making gravy, those kinds of things. So that's what my measuring jug looks like. And in school we've got some plastic ones. We've got plastic measuring cylinders as well that you might have seen in school before. So we measure capacity in millilitres, which is this little ml, and litres, which is a L, for example, in a bottle of water. And again, there are 1,000 millilitres in a litre. Okay, last one then, length. So length, of course, is used to measure how long something is. So you just had a play around with length when you wanted to see how tall you were. It's another way of asking how long you are, really. So we can use a ruler. I know yellow class have seen this before. My funky ruler that folds in half that everyone loves, to measure length. But you can also use other things to measure length as well, can't you? Like a meter stick or a measuring tape. That's all I can think. Measuring? Yeah, measuring tape. That's the right word, isn't it? Yeah, so you don't just have to use a ruler, so you can see what else you've got if you're at home. And of course, when we're in school, we do use our rulers quite a lot, don't we? So we measure length in millilitres, which we write as mm, centimetres, which is curlica, a cm, and metres, which is just an m. For example, when we're finding out how tall we are. And this time, there are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre. So here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because it's see-through. If you can see, I've got 1 centimetre here. So that 1 is where my centimetre is. And all of the little lines in between 0 and 1, or you could maybe have a look on your ruler if you've got one, those are millimetres. So they're very small. And then this ruler is 30 centimetres long, but a metre would be 100 centimetres long. Okay, now you know a bit more about measure then. We are going to be moving on to our first task. So we're going to be completing a practical task today. So I need you to find 5 objects from around your house if you're at home, or maybe in your tray if you're at school. But you don't need any scales for this task, guys. So if you are at home, you don't need anything. You can get them if you'd like to, but you won't need anything, as we're going to just be having a bit of a play today. And obviously same if you're at school. So can you actually I'll show you what I've got first, that'll make more sense. So once you've got your objects, you're going to have a go at measuring them. But as I said, I don't want you to necessarily stick to the conventional units of measure that we've just discussed. I'd like you to keep thinking outside the box. So I'd like you to try and find the length, weight, capacity and temperature, if you are using liquid, of course, and you can look at the capacity of each object. So my 5 objects are a glue stick, a pen, a felt tip pen, a memory stick. There's a bit of a yellow theme. I didn't do that on purpose, but that worked out well. A glass, obviously be very careful if you're using a glass, and I've got a hanger. So when you are getting your objects, make sure that you check with your adult that it's okay for you to use the objects, and of course you need to make sure you're being careful with them so you don't accidentally break anything, guys, okay? So what I mean by not using the conventional scales is how can you measure or compare these objects that you found? So for example, I've got my yellow felt tip pen, and I might say that my hanger is 1, 2, 3 felt tip pens long. So my hanger is 3 felt tip pens long, and I might say my glass and my glue stick, my glass is heavier than my glue stick, but maybe I want to hold my hanger on my glue stick and I might feel that they're about the same. So one glass is the same as my glue stick and my hanger. And then of course, once you've played around with that, if you'd like to, you can then use your ruler or your scales to then figure out how much they actually weigh or how long they actually are as well. But yeah, that's your first task, is just to have a play around with these things and start using that vocabulary that we've talked about today. So pause the video and off you go. Okay, well done. I hope you've had a little play around with some objects and been using all of those words that we talked about a bit earlier on. So now I'd like you to just have a little think back and see how much you can remember. So you don't have to write these into your book. You can just discuss them with whoever you're working with. But of course, if you want to challenge yourself, you can then fill this into your book as well, or depending on how much time you've got if you're at home as well. So you need to complete these STEM sentences. So we've got one box for temperature, one box for weight, one box for capacity, and one box for length on the next slide. So the first one, temperature measures how something or something is. Temperature is measured in something and something. So you need to think back to what we talked about at the beginning, see if you can fill in those blanks. And then the second one on this slide, weight measures how something or something is. Weight is measured in something and something. So pause the video and have a go at them, and then I'll tell you the answers once you've done that, and then we'll move on to the next two. Okay, so you should have said temperature measures how hot or cold something is, or you could have said cold or hot. Temperature is measured in degrees Celsius and degrees Fahrenheit. So you could have just written the degrees C and the degrees F. You didn't have to write the whole words, but if you did, well done. And the second one, weight measures how heavy or light something is. Again, you could have had light and then heavy, it doesn't matter. Weight is measured in grams and kilograms. I nearly forgot what I was saying then. So if you got that, give yourself a big tick or a pat on the back if you just talked about it, and then we'll move on to the next two. So again, we're just going to see how much we can remember and have a go at completing these sentences. So capacity measures how much something is in a container. Capacity is measured in something and something. And the second one, length, measures how something or something is. Length is measured in something, something and something. Okay, have a go at filling those ones in now for me. Pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you said capacity measures how much liquid is in a container. Capacity is measured in millilitres and litres. Again, you could have just written ml and L. You didn't have to write the whole words, but if you did, well done. And length measures how long or short something is. Length is measured in millimetres, centimetres and metres. Well done if you got them. Give yourselves a big tick or a pat on the back. Right, challenge time then. So your challenge, I would like to know, you can write this into your book or just chat about it. Which was the most accurate way that you measured an object, and why do you think that was the most accurate way? And then your final thought for today as well is which object was the easiest to measure and which object was the hardest to measure, which was the most difficult. So again, you don't have to write anything in for those sentences, those questions, or you can just discuss them, as today was primarily a practical lesson anyway. But yeah, okay, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It's odd being behind the screen again, but I hope you've all had a lovely half term. I can't wait to hear about all the things that you've been getting up to. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully I will see you soon. Bye.